Whoa! Shout out to Great Value Cream Cheese, the number 8 brand on the fastest growing brands. Great Value Cream Cheese. We are not sponsored officially by the Great Value, but I just want to throw it out there that it's out there. Hello, everyone, and today I can be a little loud and proud because basically nobody's home. I get to draw in peace for once. Good times. Working on panel 3. Rabbit Fighter. In panel 3, our severely injured Gallows. It's trying to get the robot hand working, so if it really does fly, they can escape. If you remember the beginning of this comic, they're trapped in Waste World, and the portal is, the edge of the land is collapsed. The portal is out like 100 yards and getting further away, so they can't escape. So they need some way to fly out of there. And Gallows has figured out that this robot hand is similar to a robot he fought when he was a superhero of a sort. A costumed adventurer, we might say. Before he too was trapped in Waste World. And before the zombies were attacking. So at this point, he's been shot, unfortunately. And he's been shot in the back. He's got a med kit, a med pack. But, he could put a pressure dressing on the front because it went right through the front of him. But, hard to get that around to the side. I should probably look at let's look at the previous panel because I'm trying to remember. Where's the hand? It's got these plates, these panels on the inside. It's much smaller. When you have like plates and panels like this, the cool thing is you can use those to describe the volume. With a curved line, you can see it. Oh, it's curving around, so I can understand that it's in perspective, and it shows the volume of the shape there. I personally do not like to use like a setup grid. I don't think you have to. I think that understanding 1-point perspective is super important. And then from 1-point perspective, this is something that Aaron Guzman, Monkey Wrench, showed me, and it's off of a Kim Jong-gi, rest in peace, video. Is that all perspective is really just one perspective, even no matter what you're looking at. And here's the reason why. What's the first rule of perspective? It's a pretty simple rule. First rule of perspective is that objects that are close are larger and objects that are further away are smaller. Now that also translates into several corollaries. That means that colors are brighter when they're close and they're more pale as they go off into the distance. It's called color perspective. When it comes to inking, Your background lines, for the most part, should be thin if they're far away and thicker if they're close to you, right? All of those are still the first rule. There's just still basic versions of the first rule. But now what do I mean when I say that all perspective is 1 point? What about 2 point? Got you there. Checkmate, Peter. Here's the reason. Let's say this is my point of view, and I'm actually, well, I'll do it from this side, then I'll do it from this side. This is my point of view, and I'm looking in this direction. There's a guy way off in the distance. And then there's a guy that's pretty close. He's bigger, right? Okay. What if I'm standing here? This guy's still closer, so he's this way. And then this guy over here is smaller, but what about this guy over here? He's also smaller. And so all you're really doing is you're kind of just setting up, when you look in one direction, it's smaller. You look in the other direction, it's smaller. You can see a pretty good Ethan Becker video on this where he calls it the star thing. I think it's called Deconstructing or Fixing Kim Jong-il's Trash Art. Seems needlessly hurtful. This is Ethan Becker's ass period, I believe, when he's purposely trying to be provocative. I thought he's quite funny. He's making people mad. Um, you gotta think in those terms. So no matter what you're really trying to do, whether you're trying to do curvilinear, it's curvilinear 4 point or 5 point or any of those things. To me, curvilinear is the one that kind of gives it all away. Because, like, I'll give you, well, just a little bit of full disclosure here. I actually take the Drawing Arts Academy course, which is the one that's done by Vladimir something. I don't know. It's on YouTube. You can see it. Look up Drawing Arts Academy. They've got a live stream going 24/7 where they're trying to sell the course, and it's pretty cool. And it's not that expensive either. Well, it depends on. I learned how to draw faces from that course, so I do not regret it one bit. And I've got like lifetime access to all the materials, and they're still adding more materials. So that's really cool. But in one of the lessons, they're going over the different ones. Here's 1 point perspective. Here's how you draw it. Here's 2 point perspective. Here's how you draw it. And he gets all the way, he does 3 point perspective, right? Which is where you add the third point of perspective and you can get, the spaceship zooming overhead, like you're looking up, but you're seeing the wings to the sides and all those things. And that probably should have given it away. So you're saying that basically, we're talking about the peripherals of our vision for 1 point. Now, Jack Kirby did almost everything in pretty much 1 point perspective. I mean, obviously he knew how. He never went to art school, that guy. He just had a natural talent for things. Anyways, this Drawing Arts Academy thing, it gets to 4 point. And everything else is done with a ruler, early on, as they're showing you how to do it with a ruler. And then the guy just stops using the ruler, and he's like, okay, it looks like this. And he just kind of, this dude has such a steady hand that he doesn't need a ruler. He just draws a straight line. He's doing it with like a dip pen. And he gets to the 4 point, and I'm like, all right, so how do they do the 4 point? Is it a mathematical thing? Is there a system of points? What's the secret? And there's nothing. There's nothing. Curvilinear, he just draws a curved line. He goes, okay, it's a curved line. I mean, I'm like waiting for this dude to whip out a protractor or something. Nope. It's not how it works. Not how it works, pal. All right. So it's kind of interesting to me anyhow. Maybe it's not interesting to you. I think we make it into a mystery sometimes. Uh, and when really, a lot of times we're just talking about the raw ability to draw. And it isn't a matter of, oh, you need to learn perspective. No, you need to learn how to draw. That's the problem. And even if you learn all the systems, like, okay, I'm gonna draw this as a cylinder. How do you even know what angle to draw the cylinder at? Well, you know because you learn how to draw. How do you develop that knowledge? The answer to that is, in my opinion, a lot of people don't believe me. My opinion is straight up pen mileage. You draw a lot. There are people that disagree, obviously. You can see some videos that I more or less disagree with completely, saying, oh, no, no. You don't need to draw a lot to figure this stuff out. Yes, you do. You totally do. All right, I got to figure out how I did these two. It's like they're the locking ports of the hand that would, if we had the robot, it would lock in. Let's see how we did that before. Let's see. I just got to remember which one it was. I think it's not this one or this one or this one. This is the first time we see it. Okay. It looks like there's actually three of them. They are a reflective material, so I've got these squiggly lines. And then there's like this wrist plate type area. So I can do that. And then I show it again. I show it again here. And I show it again here. So I think I've made these too big. Also, one of my problems is I've got one of the zombies is like stuck under it. All right. All right, what we're gonna do now, pull the pencil layer off and let's just try doing it from scratch. We're doing it without guidance, as if we were drawing it in the first place. That's what I'm all about. All right. There's the reflective. To make it a reflective mirror, you got to put that squiggle, the ink squiggle. All right, hold on. Let's keep going. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job here. I'm not doing a very regular job. It's the ink squiggle and then there's some hatching. So anyway, shout out to Drawing Arts Academy. I don't know what that is. That might be the head of the zombie. Let's see. Yeah, it's the head of the zombie that's caught under the one zombie that got closest to him that he killed. There we go. I've been drawing on this thing for about 3 days now. Well, since Sunday? What's today? Tuesday? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I didn't want to make it look too grungy because I lose realism that way. Not that I'm going for an intense amount of realism. I'm not at all. but you want like just enough. You know what I'm saying? Just enough. The more real you go, whoops, the more boring your comic is. But it's like bitterness in a recipe. You need a little bitter to balance the savory to create a an interesting flavor. So that's my completely nonsense theory. You need a little bit of realism, not too much, to successfully do superheroes. Shout out to your boy Zach. He's like, he's become a convert to the AI art, and I'm like, ah, you fool, don't do it. And I know why, really. I think I know why. I think I know why, and it doesn't bode well for your boy. So your boy Zach, as most of you know, most people know, is an artist himself. But he's an artist who lacks confidence in his own work. And the reason is because he's been working alongside some really pro dudes. Like if you look at, I mean, first of all, Ebi Canalis, who I think is great, but he's been working with all kinds of guests, all kinds of guests on his comics. And this is a dude who really kind of wanted to be the artist himself, at least at one point. I've got the when I got the I forget which one of the Jawbreakers books it is, but he did one and he did the cover himself. I made sure to get that one. I mean, there was some other. There was, I think, there was like a Kelsey Shannon one, right? I mean, there were some nice ones. Kelsey Shannon is an incredible artist, and I still went for the one by Zach because I actually think um, that like indie art is more honest looking. It looks there's more to it, you know. When you see it, I know it's less pro, man. Let me just say, I mean, do you enjoy the look of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when Archie did them, or do you enjoy the original, you know, Eastman and Laird? Or, you know, we could go around all kinds of comics and talk about, you know, the Bronze Age and, you know, and what actually looked good. And yeah, I know my stuff is not as polished as a lot of these pro dudes, these fucking ringers, you know, that already had careers as professionals. Um, I just think there's something very intensely interesting about the art of the guys that are, you know, hope to one day get there. There's just something raw about it. And I'll give you a quote. I think I've quoted this before, but it's from Jack Kirby, and he says, "In my opinion, every red-blooded American man can make a comic." He's not saying every red-blooded American man can draw. Oh, another thing he said, "I didn't think people should try and change their art style. Just draw like how you draw." This is in reference to like a house style that Marvel had. You know, at one point the house style was the Kirby style for the early part of the '60s. You know, and by the way, as you know, as much of a Kirby fanboy I am, I can admit that the later refinements on characters like the Hulk and the Fantastic Four, as done by, let's say, John Byrne or somebody, they're much more aesthetically done. Um, but would would you rather? Which would you rather have? Which would you rather read? And there's just something about the raw power of Kirby. Now Kirby's an outlier. He's special. There's something very special about him. And we're not really looking at refinement. Um, but I also want to say Kirby gets a pass. He gets to be the only one who gets to draw like himself, and nobody else gets to do it. Or then we go back and we look at Ditko, same deal. People are way less willing to cut Ditko the exact same slack. Um, and they don't recognize that here's what Ditko's really doing. You know, he had his own style. He had his own rawness to it, And what I love about Ditko is his design sensibilities, especially with costumes. That Spider-Man costume has survived the ages. And sure, yeah, I know it might be a Don Post or something like that that he converted over or whatever else. But I mean, okay, think in your mind right now. Think of a Spider-Man villain, and which one is it? I bet you, I bet you're thinking of a Ditko villain. And you're thinking of that Ditko villain in his original costume too, whether it's Green Goblin or Electro or Vulture or whatever else. Those characters still have the look that Ditko gave them. A million artists have tried to go back in and say, yeah, I love the Creeper. Mike Allred loves the Creeper. Other guys came along and they tried to do versions of the Creeper, but the Ditko version is still the definitive one. See you later. All right. How about Blue Beetle? Blue Beetle is not Ditko's character. That's an old Golden Age character, right? The Dan Garrett Blue Beetle. And you know, he created the Ted Kord version over at Charlton. They killed him off cruelly, in my opinion, during Villains United, and they replaced him with Jaime Hernandez. Oh, I forget remember the character's name. His name was Jaime, I think, because the new Blue Beetle. But Blue Beetle for me will always be the black the Jack Kirby, not the Jack Kirby. It's the Steve Ditko design. The Steve Ditko design is the Blue Kirby. They got to bring Ted Kord back. You know, it's got to be Ted Kord. Now I know that they're probably gonna. James Gunn just announced a Blue Beetle movie. It'll probably be our postmodern, you know, Hispanic Blue Beetle, right? But I bet you Ted Kord at least makes a cameo. It's part of the story. It has to be part of the story. And something about that look, about the way that he does the shoulder, the legs coming down over the shoulder, and you know even the look of the Blue Beetle airship thing that he had. It was definitive. So that's why I think Kirby is really the great design. I mean, not Kirby, Ditko once again is the great designer. Such a great designer. How's that look? Now this is going to be bubbled out, but we're going to worry about that later. I was thinking, does this deserve to be another um, panel break here? It's where he's going to start the engines up. It blasts a puff of exhaust out the back, and there's bodies back here. Like there's three dead zombies. So we got to make sure and get those in there. My one real problem that I have, I got to put these bodies down here somewhere. I got to lay some bodies down on the ground as he's flying over. I could just take them out. I don't think I could get away with that. So anyway, yeah. Your boy Zach, I think he's interested in the AI art because he really does want to be the guy that's in charge of the art, and I don't know. My thing is just do it. Just do it. I mean, he went and he hired Narwhal, and Narwhal's the perfect example of a guy doing art like he wants to do it. Narwhal doesn't have the painterly chops of one of these former mainstream comics guys. He's got his own style and he does it great. It doesn't take this sort of masterpiece virtuoso level capability, and that's what we're really talking about. There's no doubt that these guys are super good. Um, it doesn't take that to create a comic, to create a coherent story, and to create panels that successfully, illustrate that story. Um, well, at least I hope. I hope that's the case. I sincerely believe that, and that's why I'm making comics today. Because I know I'm not that. I know I'm not that good. A little humility goes a long way. If you know you're not good, but you're doing it anyway, I think you're in a good place. That's called emotional intelligence, baby. And slowly, over time, you will get good. You may not get as good as quickly as you want, but there's something to be said for amateurism. All right, let's see. Let's take a look. All right, there's a body, there's a body. Are their heads the right size? That's the other thing. This head looks a bit small, but I've got a thick outline here. My real question is, how do I do the... I've got the arms okay. These are all supposed to be already dead bodies, so if I put a foot in there, like, am I okay to do that? I don't know. Does this foot get mixed up with that arm? I think it does. I think I tangent it. I think that's too much of a tangent. Well, what if I do it this way? If I put this foot... I think I can't get away with it. I think it's... I'll just have to leave it down there. All right. Once we have the outline, pull the pencil layer off. Just try and freehand it at this point. That's my opinion. Our plans next year with the Adventures in Comic Making server are very exciting. There will be new publications, new kinds of publications. And we're going to look for new members for the very first time since the pandemic. We're going to have things for ways to engage them. There was kind of a period where we were thinking about going less commercial. And, as predicted, I was always against it, but I kept my mouth shut while we were talking about it just because I didn't want to, like, if somebody has a good idea, I'm not going to stand in the way of it, and I'm going to do my best to help them implement it. But my instincts are to go non-commercial, and so my thought, one of my thoughts anyways, is once you start introducing money into the mix, especially in a group endeavor, I think it's okay to go for money if it's just you. Like, if it's just me, I put out my comics and I actually charge money for them. The ones that are just me. Because I know nobody else's work went into them. It's just me. And I don't hire anybody. It's just me. I don't hire anybody to do art or to do story or to do inking or to put it together. I just kind of do it on my own. And this means two things. First of all, it means it's probably not as good as it could be. People like to point that out. Well, if you'd have gotten that one guy to do it for you, would have been whatever. To which I say, yeah, whatever. But I don't know them, and it would have cost. And I don't believe in ripping anybody off. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So it's just me. But with the anthologies, the whole thing with the anthology is, if it's nobody, if nobody's at any particular advantage, it's a great way to do a collaboration because then that um, everybody gets out of it what they put into it, right? Everyone retains their own rights. I'm not personally making anything off it, so my conscience is fucking clear. I'll tell you what, it totally is. Oh, he's got radioactive lesions. There we go. Um, there's no reason to do, to make things commercial that don't need to be commercial. If you introduce commerciality, you also introduce, you know, the concept of, well, this failed as a product. Does that mean it's failed as an artistic endeavor? It doesn't, but it could mean the same thing if you've set the metrics of success up. Okay, what is he doing here? His thumb should be inwards. Okay, that's good. I did it right. If you set the metrics of success up in such a way that if the project fails, then that means artistically it fails. If you're non-commercial, there's no way artistically it fails because your goal was to get it, just to put it together, just to finish it, to get it out there. And for me, still concerned with my quest for 1,000. Yeah, I know. There's I have I have heard the shit. I've heard they're not trying to sell comics. So why are they even allowed to make comics? And, I'm going to change his hand position here. And I just think that's first of all, a really disconnected thought process because, um, first of all, I don't see anybody else going out of their way to fucking, you know, uh, oh, it's our community, right? We're all going to come together and we're going to get our things into shops and such. That's just not reality. I don't think it's going to happen. So, um, what are we left with? None of this is commercially really viable until there is a marketplace. Well, how do you create a marketplace? Well, you have to have interest in a product. Well, how do you create interest in a product? Well, you have to have a scene. You have to have promotion. You have to have a lot of people doing it. Believe me, I was really involved in fucking setting up um, performance spaces for like punk rock and funk back in the day. Had bands all through high school, all through college, and it's having a cheap place to play, just having the collaborations that go on, the people that are into it are able to enjoy it. It's not, you don't immediately go, okay, yes, I have created a band and now I will play Madison Square fucking Garden. That's not how it works. You have to have other people doing it too. I remember hearing Mike Watt say, there's a scene in LA where people write original songs on the Decline of Western Civilization movie. You ever see that? Where they're documenting how they created that scene. There's a scene where they create original songs because there were bands. Bands existed, but there weren't. They were cover bands. Cover bands aren't even bands, in my opinion. All right, let's see. We got something going on. Hang on. I think his head's too big. All right, what do we do? How do we make this smaller? Is it just the back of his head that's too big? So Well, who's going to pay attention? Well, it's just like when I was in high school. At least I think it's similar to when I was in high school, and in a sense, much harder, um, or much easier rather. It's friends and family. I started my first band. I think I bought my first guitar in 1983. Like I was with my brother and his friends, and they were just driving around Houston, and they were like, "Hey, let's go check out what's in pawn shops. We've never been to a pawn shop." And they went in there, and I was with them, and there was a guitar hanging on the wall for $50, and I was like, "I've got $50," and I bought my first guitar, and it was a piece of junk, but I learned how to play it, and I got another guitar after that that was better, that was a little bit, stayed in tune a little bit better. And then I kind of recruited my two friends, Andrew and Ed, and I got Andrew to play the drums, even though he'd never played drums before. And I got Ed to play the bass, even though the only thing he'd played before was saxophone. And we formed a band. And we played all summer long in the garage. And then pretty soon we found another band that was doing something similar. And then we started arranging shows, and then people started showing up. By the way, what is Andrew Tutelis doing today? The guy that I recruited and said, "Hey, you should play drums. You seem like a rhythmic person." He plays drums for a band called the Giraffes. You can look him up on YouTube. The Giraffes NYC. You look up a guy named Drew in the Giraffes. Bald dude. That was my best friend in high school, Andrew Tutelis. All right. Well, anyways, I'm wondering. I don't think I've gotten this head right. I think my problem is I've made the jaw too long. I think it's it's really like there, right? Isn't that what it is? Okay, so now is the head right? I think it's okay. As long as we do the proportions correctly, I think we're okay. But I really think it's similar with comic book. I've done the same thing with, by the way, with role playing games. I started a role playing game group called Bargle, which was Baltimore area role playing game. I can't remember what the LE stands for, but Bargle is it's a character from basic D&D, from a basic D&D adventure. And for a while, we had open D&D gaming going on at area game stores. And at one point, I was made the representative for the Northeast Living Forgotten Realms RPGA Living Campaign. I was the POC. And let me tell you, it was hundreds of people that were playing every week. And it's the same concept. You get together, you have a good time. You're getting together with co-enthusiasts, enjoying a thing. Um, who are these comics going to be sold to? The general public? I just don't believe it. Because first of all, Diamond borked the distro system. You can't just go into a drugstore and buy a comic anymore. Everybody knows that. So you got to be the guy that's willing to go into the comic store. Oh, okay, so the answer is crowdfunding. Well, not exactly. Crowdfunding is it only really works, in my opinion, it only really works if it's tied directly to your social media presence, and your social media presence is truly significant, and you aren't being screwed over by some algorithm, like some secret algorithm somewhere. And then you still have to have something that people are truly interested and excited about. This is why I think Comicsgate kind of wins, even though they're being shadow banned everywhere. There's no denying the excitement, the the lore, and the fun that's going on. I mean, it's crazy. That night I was there um, in the chat the night that what's his name? The dude called into EVS's show. I can't even remember his name. He's so insignificant. Donnie something. Can't remember. Listen, listen, listen. What was so funny about it to me at the time, this was during the big lockdown. Donnie Cates, that's what his name was. Is I had my eyes on Dan Fraga the whole time, and Dan had just started like kind of showing up to the Comicsgate things, and he was promoting Black Flag, which I backed. Have I got did Black Flag come out yet? I don't know. There's some Comicsgate that I backed, books that I backed that like the book came in and I had lost interest by that time, so I'll have to check my reading pile. But this is all playing out in just sheer incredulity on Dan Fraga's face. It was so funny. I don't know. Good times. Good times are had. Good times are had, bro. Vroom. It's like vroom. All right. I want to do this in a another layer just in case I do it wrong because I want to, you know. And if it doesn't work, I just I can erase that layer. All right. I think that does actually kind of work. I like the idea of it. But what I don't like is I got to do some. Oh crud. Okay, so I've got the bottom arrow is going to have to. I can do it with white maybe. So if you're watching or if you're reading this panel, you see, okay, he's managed to start up the engines. Vroom. Do you guys see what I mean about like, should I do this as a separate panel? Like, what if I put another panel here, and you could see the you can see that he's done something and the hand has started up or something. He's starting to cough here. Well, although it's unspoken, his one of his lungs has collapsed at this point, and he's lost a lot of blood. But he's so he's a badass superhero, so um, he's still alive, right? He's still conscious. So where's the bubbles? Okay. Anyway, another fun thing about my point of view, even if I'm wrong, it doesn't fucking matter. It only really affects me. If you don't want to be part of the anthology, doesn't matter. You could still do stuff. The anthology is just a cool way to get your work out there to get some practice in, have set yourself a little deadline, have a nice printed copy of your own work on your own shelf. It's all print on demand, and you're part of the group. You know, the association is there. Oh fuck! There is some baseline fucking standards of behavior we want to enforce. Because just like anywhere, if you go in and you're, oh man, can make things difficult. It doesn't work out. And in my opinion, that's fine too. It's okay. You can go off, break off and form your own scene. That happened everywhere in every one of these scenes that I've set up. There were like bands that were more metal than punk that went off and did their thing. And we still even had, plenty of overlap. Some people were in both kinds of bands. You know, we had the electronic bands later on. the, and the electronic bands were also further divided because you had people that wanted to use, um, actual like real synthesizers, and you had people that wanted to do stuff from their laptop, and that was a thing too. All this took place most recently. I'm mostly talking about stuff that went on in Texas, but we actually, oops, which one are we on? Layer 13, Inky. Um, as recently as 2004, I think my last show was in 2012. I was playing shows in DC. I played a couple shows in Baltimore. I played shows in Austin. Played a lot of shows in Houston and Lubbock. Yeah, I think it's what we needed was ground cover this whole time. All right, what is this line? That's not in that layer. Is it in this layer? Yes. All right. I'm at 47 minutes. I got one panel left. Oh, shucks. I got some of my. There it goes. Now, as we all know, nobody listens to these things or watches them, and it's okay, and I don't care. But please like, follow, and subscribe. Because you never know. You never know, man. Stop listening to the adults. They don't know. In the end, art is about expressing yourself, and you don't need any validation from anyone. You just need to continue striving forward. Coming to get you, Rabbit.